Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. Hope you guys are all doing amazing, enjoying the sun or the rain. I had a big thunderstorm last night. A bit spooky when you live by yourself and it wakes you up in the middle of the night. 31 and still feeling a little freaked out by the weather effects. But I also am appreciative of the Switch effect because in my opinion, the Switch has been phenomenal. But today, my friends, we're examining the terrible truth about Nintendo Switch games, or so I have uncovered. This one, you're gonna want a snack, maybe even something to sip, and you're gonna wanna get cozy. So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. I love you guys a lot. Make sure to smash that like button. I'm about to sneeze, so let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this terrible truth that we are about to uncover. First, a couple of news blips that dropped. Furukawa, the head honcho at Nintendo, says that they are interested in more animation. He says animation in general is something that we are looking into and not just this franchise. Now he's representing the upcoming Mario movie, and he says that Miyamoto is hard at work on this, very hands-on. He's very involved in the creation of this film that is supposed to come out next year. Now I'm super excited. Illumination is working on it. Yes, they've done Minions, but I feel like they have the chops to make an awesome Mario movie. And it sounds like Nintendo is finally, after many years, easing their tight hold on their IP. Because previously Nintendo wanted to keep everything so close to the chest, everything in-house, and it had sacred rules. And it feels like they're relaxing some of those. It's evidenced by the theme park and the partnership with Universal. It's evidenced by this Illumination movie for Mario and the desire to continue to expand their awesome characters and their awesome games beyond just the Switch, which I think is pretty freaking cool. Now, the Switch lineup is regarded by many as cool, except the Uncle Al Show. Now, who is the Uncle Al Show? Well, he is a YouTuber, and he posted this very interesting thread of tweets, and it is one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen. It's a picture of Nintendo's first-party Switch games, and it gets reduced and it reduced and it reduced down to virtually nothing. And he's making the case that the Nintendo Switch is nowhere near as great as you and I have been led to believe. Now that's an odd thought, but let me take you through this, and you might agree with the Uncle Al Show. I take issue though. This is really something, so get ready. Uncle Al posts a screenshot of all Nintendo's first-party Switch games and says, wow, look at this awesome lineup. Any game company would kill to have this. And I agree, it's fantastic. We're talking Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, Mario, Splatoon, Pikmin, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart, multiple Zeldas, Fire Emblem, even quirky games like ARMS. Lots of great stuff. But then Uncle Al starts to work his special kind of magic and starts to remove games. And first he says he's going to remove remakes and ports, and we're left with a much smaller list. Because yes, the Switch does have its fair share of remakes and ports. He doesn't stop there. Uncle Al then removes games that he dubs finish it later titles. And by this he means games that Nintendo has added things as the title has progressed, added new characters, added regular updates, added a bunch of features. And at this point, he shows that there are 8 games remaining for Nintendo Switch. There are 8 titles that he deems worthy of being a Switch exclusive. Now, I would argue that even these 8 games, it's an insane lineup. I mean, if I think back to and I try to reduce down the PS4 and just say like, hey, the only games you need to play on PS4 are God of War, Last of Us 2, and Uncharted 4 and Bloodborne. 4 games. I mean, we're already at double and the Switch has existed for half the time. This list is a phenomenal 8, but Uncle Al goes to say that this shows that the Switch does not have a great lineup and that the gimmick of handheld play is in fact what has powered the early years of Switch. And as this starts to wane, and as Nintendo runs out of a former unsuccessful struggling console like the Wii U to rely on for ports, the Switch 2 or the future years of Switch are going to be very bad unless Nintendo finds a way to make better games. Again, breathe. I have so many issues with this. I applaud him for logically going through, but I think there's so many fallacies and falsehoods, and we gotta dig deeper. Okay, so first off, the initial photo with all of the games. Yes, an incredible lineup. I mean, there's good variety, and there's consistent, relentless production, right? They are putting out so many games. There's been a few gaps, a few lulls, but Nintendo has hammered home first-party exclusives. And this is a console where that matters, but to me it matters way less than it did in recent eras because Nintendo has acquired and earned the support of so many third parties and indie developers. This console doesn't need to be reduced to this one screen, even though this is a phenomenal lineup because we do have the support of so many third parties and so many indies delivering old games and new games that are fantastically fun to play on Switch. But let's go back to Uncle Al, what he's focusing on here. He removes the remakes and ports, which I understand, because to an extent, I get bummed when Nintendo emphasizes remakes and ports as well. I will give them credit for trying to make those ports better, and in some cases, phenomenally better. You look at Mario 3D World, which came out earlier this year, and Bowser's Fury is a brilliant addition. In fact, I'd say that's one of the best things Nintendo has made this decade. I think that's a phenomenal, masterful piece of work that they patched on to an already existing awesome game. And Nintendo's games that they're porting are primarily premier, so it's hard to really complain, but they do, in many cases, try to boost and buff them out. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker received levels inspired by Mario Odyssey, which is a really cool way to spice it up. And games like Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe just received a full complement of the DLC and the packages. The same can be said for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. They took a great game, they put everything together, effectively Game of the Year'd it. You know, they released those bundles where it's like, hey, it's got all the DLC, all the packs, all the extras. Boom. But okay, I can see how ports, could be a little frustrating, but here's where it gets really, really problematic. He says he's gonna remove all the games that are finish it later, and this is where the cracks form in his theory. Because while you've heard me say many times on this channel that I think ACNH did start a little bare bones, and they are adding back in features from past games that feels a bit odd in structure, and I wish they would have started with a more feature-complete package, I think the buck kind of stops there. Because Uncle Al includes games like Splatoon 2 in his Finish It Later game list. Now, Splatoon 2 got a bunch of added content, but you can't tell me that Octo expansion means the game wasn't finished. And you can't tell me that adding more stages, weapons, and gear means the game wasn't finished. That's just called supporting your game. That's just called creating an environment and a space that players want to continue playing in for years to come. He includes games like Mario Tennis Aces and ARMS by saying that their characters and some of their expanded modes should have been there at the start. In reality, I think Mario Tennis Aces' expanding roster is a reason that players continued to play and participate in online tournaments, and it kept that game relevant. So yes, some titles like ACNH can have a frustrating finish it later mentality, but most of these, my friend, you're talking about games like Super Mario Maker 2, which got some additions later on, and they did add the online multiplayer a little bit after launch, but I think it's unfair to remove those titles and dismiss them because apparently Nintendo didn't care when they initially released them. I think that's completely off the mark. In an era where great games get great updates, I think it's totally unfair to say that if a game receives additional content beyond launch, then it was unfinished. That feels like archaic thinking, and I just can't get behind it. Then Uncle Al makes his big chop, and he cuts down the lineup to what he deems as the must-have games. He removes fluff, half-baked filler, meh, and boring, lazy games, and he's down to a set of 8. He gets down to Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Smash Bros. Ultimate, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and Luigi's Mansion 3. And yes, I would agree that those are probably the best titles on Switch. But to dismiss and demean the other games, even after his previous cuts, titles like Astral Chain and Pokemon Sword and Shield, more recent titles like Paper Mario and the Origami King and new Pokemon Snap, just because they're not your favorites doesn't make them not worthwhile games. And I think Nintendo has actually excelled at spreading the variety and spreading the genres and spreading the focus, the demographics, the players around on this console. They've really tried to appeal to many franchises. For example, new Pokemon Snap is nowhere near as bold as Breath of the Wild, but new Pokemon Snap targets a different type of player, a different audience. It feeds on nostalgia and the wonder that is photographing Pokemon. But they still expanded, they still improved. New Pokemon Snap is nowhere near as basic as the original Pokemon Snap, even if the loop is the same. The animations, the lifelike nature, the fun courses, the way that they have built upon the initial structure is superb. And while I'm personally not the biggest fan of Pokemon Sword and Shield, I still think those games are great additions to the Switch library. Just because they're a sequel and you don't perceive them as the perfect evolution, they get thrown out? I mean, that's like saying that every sequel to Uncharted should be thrown out on PlayStation because it didn't reinvent the wheel. That Last of Us 2 should be tossed because it was basically a continuation of Last of Us 1 with a few new, better mechanics. And Uncle L tries to leverage the fact that the Switch has received critically acclaimed third-party titles on its platform as a means to criticize their first-party lineup, when in my opinion, those just go hand in hand to enhance Nintendo Switch's overall library. The fact that they do have these third-party ports and they do have these third-party titles doesn't diminish what Nintendo has put out and reveal cracks in their plans. No, it's just the first time in forever that we're actually getting great support across the board. And not every game needs to be the home run of home runs. There's only one game of the year for a reason. And I think even if we're to say that those are the only 8 amazing games on Switch, 2 per year from Nintendo, from first party, 2 amazing games per year is pretty darn fantastic. That is incredible. There's one game of the year, but apparently Nintendo is delivering 2 amazing games each year on Switch, so even at its worst, this is still fantastic. But I want to return you to the initial graphic because this is how I feel about Nintendo's first-party lineup. This is the picture I would give you. All of the games. They may not all be for you, they may not all be phenomenal, but it's an example of Nintendo really emphasizing first-party development and delivering something for everyone. They have tried to really expand out into many familiar franchises, even new areas. They've tried to deliver online games and offline games. They are providing such a plethora of unique titles, even experimenting with a much more linear first-person story-driven experience in Luigi's Mansion 3. They got the big bombastic RPGs. They got the fun 3D platformers. They got the action games that we've loved for years like Legend of Zelda, but now with not just a fresh coat of paint, but with a whole new methodology. And I'm not saying every game is the best it's been. There are certain things to nitpick with many of these titles, but you cannot tell me that Nintendo Switch isn't so successful because of its amazing lineup. Whether this thing is portable or not, these games shine. They shine in handheld and they shine on the TV, and I can guarantee you, if the Switch was a home console, this lineup would still be impressive. This lineup would still be amazing. This lineup would still be fantastic. And yes, Nintendo doesn't have the PS5 level graphics and they aren't putting in the blood and gore of some games on other platforms, but they really do have such an excellent, fun, and very, very diverse lineup here on the Switch. And with the ports and remakes, this isn't a Nintendo specific issue. For better or worse, currently across the entire gaming industry, ports and remakes are insanely popular. We're seeing many beloved titles on PlayStation and Xbox get all dolled up for a new version. And we're seeing backwards compatibility be emphasized more and more. Now, you could argue that Nintendo is trying to profit off of this by reselling you the same game, but alas, they're just capitalizing on their Wii U lineup that didn't get enough love. And in effect, these games are new for many players. If the solution is to not release them so no one can play them, I'm not sure how that makes us any better off. Because I don't think that these ports are replacing brand new games for Nintendo. I think they're merely additive. I don't think if we did not have Pikmin 3 Deluxe or Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze that all of a sudden we would get a brand new Pikmin or a brand new Donkey Kong. I think those would have just been gaps in the calendar. And don't get me wrong, I always want Nintendo to be better and to do their best. Look, I will criticize Animal Crossing New Horizons and give you my tips for what I think they could have done differently. Why they aren't adding some of these super fun, fan-requested features is beyond me. And I'm hopeful of all hope that Nintendo delivers an epic E3 presentation highlighting a stellar lineup for the second half of 2021. But if they come out firing blanks, or they're like, yo, all we got is Skyward Sword and 2D Metroid, that won't be enough for me. And I will take them to task for that. I am absolutely willing to criticize Nintendo when they deserve it. but the Switch game lineup is going to go down as one of the best, not just in Nintendo history, but in gaming history. And remember, they're only 4 years in. We have so many titles on the horizons that will continue to boost this lineup to insane heights. Games like Metroid Prime 4, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. At some point, we're gonna get a new Mario Kart. At some point, we're gonna get a new 3D Mario. There are many games, including possible new IP that we can't even predict, that will continue to reinforce this as a very fun and diverse lineup. One that has something for everyone, not just the hardcore and not just the casual. This isn't the mom and pop Good Morning America machine, and this isn't the super hardcore $500 box. This is a blending, a meeting in the middle, without sacrificing all the extremes. There's something for everyone truly, and Nintendo Switch is so special and so successful because of this very fact. And if you don't trust anything I say or you think I'm completely crazy, just read the sales figures. Nintendo's about to have a financial call later this week, and you will see that many of these games that are dismissible or thrown off, tossed aside, are selling 10+ million copies. I don't think that's anything to scoff at. So in conclusion, the terrible truth about Nintendo Switch's lineup isn't that it's actually only 8 games strong, it's that it's an incredible lineup. It's that it's almost scary how good it is, and it's only getting better from here. Let me know your take in the comments down below. I'd love to hear how you feel about Uncle Al's progressively reductive screenshots, and if you agree more with that take or you agree more with mine. I think it's a really interesting conversation, but I do have a poll. I didn't forget you. I'm finally back with that, so make sure to check the community tab every evening. You can find our new polls for the next episode of Good Morning Mario. And today I asked, Nintendo says they are interested in making more animated movies after Mario. Like Furukawa talked about. What movie would you want most? And I gave you the options of a Legend of Zelda movie, a Super Smash Bros. Movie, an Animal Crossing movie, a Star Fox movie, and a Metroid movie. And to no surprise, Legend of Zelda crushed. I voted for that, 49% of you voted for that, and it seems like it would be fitting. It would be super fun, whether we get a Netflix show or we get a true movie. I would love some Zelda. I hope they ditch some of the kind of corniness from the OG Legend of Zelda series and make it something fresh, new, and very adventurous. Almost like a Disney Plus kind of show. I think that'd be a really good vibe. But then 28% of you said Animal Crossing, and then only 9% said Smash Brothers. I thought it'd be a really fun Wreck-It Ralph style, like amalgamation, blended up in a smoothie movie with different characters, crossovers, franchises, and all sorts of fans. But hey, 9% of you want that, 9% of you want Metroid, and only 5% want Star Fox, which makes sense. That game franchise is kind of out of our minds, and I guess out of all of these, it's probably the least popular. But let me know what you think about everything we talked about today in the comments down below. Make sure to smash that like button to support the show and show some love. I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks so much for letting me share my passions with you every day. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you're having an awesome time. Make sure to stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Take care of yourself. Go do something nice for somebody else. After this video, get up, text somebody that you know could use a little love. Okay, call them up on the phone. Just send them a little message. Just send them a little something to brighten their day. It'll take you 30 seconds, but it might impact them for 3 hours or even 30. So get after it. Have a good one, everybody. And until next time, SwitchForce out.